May, Craig, and Angus were sprawled all over the couch, watching Germ play video games. He was in the middle of battling some horrific black slime creature, when all of a sudden Greg spoke up. "So, what do you think you did?" Greg asked. "Did what?" May asked. "Those murderers." Greg said. "Who do you think did it?" I don't know, it could be anyone," May said. "What if it's someone we know?" Greg asked in aggravation, ghoulish voice. "That would suck," Angus said. "Total suckitude, but we know it's not any of us," May said, scratching the inch on her nose. "So we do?" Greg asked. "Yeah, we do, don't we?" May asked. "It's not Greg or me, since we've witnessed each other before the fire," Angus said. "And we're both here. I was doing bills and Greg was messaging you." "What if you guys planned the whole thing so it looked like you were both at home?" May asked. "Well, yeah, but what if you did set your house on fire yourself to cover up the fact that you killed Pierogi Guy and Mr. Penderson?" Greg rebutted. "Well, that's true," May said, tapping her chin. But that mean I do the firebombs in my room, so I would have to sneak in at least a jerry can and empty beer bottles and rags up past Mom and Dad. They would have seen me. Maybe Bee used some of her gas in their car to make those firebombs," Germs chimed in, but without looking away from the TV. I don't know. She messaged me from her computer right before it happened. She wouldn't have gotten a signal in my backyard, even if she was on her phone," May said. "What about you, Germ? What's your and Bill?" Angus asked. "I was at the Krusties," Germ said. "After a brand practice, I brought them all the sodas." I guess we got pretty solid excuses," said Craig. "Well, you almost sound disappointed," Angus replied with a faint smile. Craig returned it before his ears perked up. "What about Salmers?" Craig asked. "Nah, I would have seen her come down through the trolley tunnel. Plus, the killer uses his bits of Flannery O'Malley stories, not poetry," May said. "O'Connor," Angus corrected. "Same thing. But you want to know who really screws with me? What's that? I can't take if any reason of this would happen," May said. "You mean a Molotov?" Germ asked, his eyes still glued to the television. "Yeah, what do Penderson and the pierogi guy and me have to do in common?" May asked. "Well, he might be picking on people at random," Greg said. "Or she," May said. "It could be a girl, too." "I honestly don't care about the Molotov," Angus said. "What's important that is all of us stay safe. And we probably shouldn't go out by ourselves, and we should probably make an agreement to be at home, or at least be behind locked door or by sundown." "I promised Grandma already," Germ said. "And what about work?" "I don't lock the door until 9, May said. "I'll talk to Dennis about the schedule," Angus said. "In the meantime, all May and could work at the video outpost too." She never met Dennis and the store's exclusive manager, not even once. She had been hired with no interview, just a welcome email and a schedule. "Doesn't Bee sometimes work late?" Greg asked. "Yeah, she does, but she's at least got some people to work with her," May said. I thought they all called it quits." Greg sat forward, looking at May intensely. "Nah, Danny's still there. And there is still some high school grad named Lucy who is working in the summer. Brooks has been gone since March," May said. "Oh yeah," Greg hissed. "I still can't believe that her dad let that angry guy work around Bee," Angus sighed. The group then fell silent right after the conversation was fizzing out, after going through that dust-pressing route. Germ is the character who defeated the boss such a hardly scratch. The horrific character let out a elaborate death wail before collapsing, dissolving into nothingness. "You still got that Flannery book, Angus?" May asked. "No, it was the library's copy. Do you want to read it?" "Well, it might be handy. I mean, we could look up things like how to avoid so we don't get murderized," May suggested. "Holy crap, that's a great idea. Why didn't the cops think of that?" Greg demanded. "I wouldn't be surprised if they checked it out for themselves, but we could see if it's still there," Angus said. "Bike trip," May exclaimed. "Bike trip," Greg echoed, giving Angus an eager look. The bear stared back for a moment before the two were shrugging. "Sure, I could use some fresh air." "Woohoo!" Greg then leapt onto his feet and they went to his keys. Angus then stretched out his arms, assigning a long grunt of effort before rising from the couch to follow the yellow fox. "You want to come, Germ?" May asked as she laced up her boots. "Nah," the little bird replied. May felt a twinge of guilt. Remembering of how she rejected Germ's advances on the rides in the woods, she knew that she wasn't all right, but she knew, and she grew quite queasy just thinking about how Germ did for her, and wondered if there was any way that she could turn him down easier. Dude, Maze sealed her lips when Greg and Angus returned. You want to stop at the old pickaxe on the way? See if Bee wants to come? Greg asked as he pulled his jacket. I don't think she works on Sundays, so we would have to swing by her apartment, but sure, Maze said, putting on a smile. Germ, you with us, duder? Greg asked, tapping Germ on the shoulder. Nah, Germ said again. Oh, okay, if you're hungry, we've got chips and stuff. Greg then let them out of the apartment and down on the bike rack, and eyeing the bicycle that May then narrowed and then borrowed and unlocked his own. I didn't know you had a bike, May, Angus said. No, it's not mine, it's Germ's older sister's, May replied, stumbling a bit over the catastrophe. Oh yeah, but Snow White, I thought it would be pink, Greg said, putting on his riding goggles. Germ's older sister Snow White? Angus asked as he climbed on top of the bike, wrapping his arm around Greg's torso. Well, no, I'll tell you when we get to the library. The three of them then sped down the street, and May noticed carefully Greg rode when Angus was the passenger. He usually went out of his way slow or ride off close obstacles, but being especially fond of this riding for the puddles made the water wings. He even earned an extra points as he splashed a pedestrian. But that was Angus while he was still riding quickly, however. He still took the safest routes and actually stopped at the signs, with May that took an opportunity to bow past him when they stopped at the intersection. See ya, losers, May was interrupted by a sound of squealing brakes with a long frantic blast of horn. She had rode directly in front of the passing station wagon, and unable to get out of the way until she smashed it on her side. She flipped her head over heels in front of the car, her boots resting on the windshield. Eve's bicycle peered over and then landed in the middle of the street. May, what the hell? Bee chimed out of the driver's seat and ran out of the car, May lying wide-eyed and open-mouthed on the hood. Are you okay? Can you hear me? May looked at Bee before smiling. You care about me, Beatrice? She giggled. She even shook her head steadily, wearing it off. Bee's expression of panic wrinkled into a scowl. Ugh, get off my car, she spat, shoving May's legs from the windshield, the cat sliding off of the hood and onto the pavement with the owie. After making sure May was alright, Greg had to clutch the stop sign to keep him from collapsing with laughter. When May and her bicycle were relatively unharmed, May escaping with only a huge bruise on her hip, Angus managed to explain the situation to Bee and invited her along the way to the library. The alligator was relieved that her car and May were alright and agreed to meet them as soon as she bought a carton of cigarettes. So where are we supposed to start? The third floor of the library felt more like a cryptid than anything else. The silence was only to ever be broken by their own voices, and the dim overhead lights revealed the hundreds of dust remotes floating throughout the room. Greg then pulled out a random book from his shelf and read it over the cover above. Selected works of Samuel Beckett. Am I close? Not really. He wrote plays, Angus replied. Greg shrugged and replaced the book. May couldn't remember the last time she had seen a fox that read a book for fun. To be fair, she never had recently occasionally either, only reading Sommer's poetry and other poets that she recommended to May. Those were actually really nice to read when she could understand them. So where are we supposed to be going? May asked in a brushed voice. The book labeled 810, the American literature, Angus muttered. 810, 810, 810. Greg chimed in to himself as he ran along the row of weighty-looking books. He then paused for a moment to frown at the smeared dust and gathered around on his paw, wiping it off the street on his pants. Gross! Oh, over there, May beckoned, as the two of them went over to the shelf across the aisle. I think this is it. May pointed at the top of the row of most books, labeled 810. They were a thick black volume rested, and the spine reading O'Connor in the elegant front. That's the one. Angus, already being the tallest over there, needed to stand on his toes to reach the book. He brought it down for everyone else's level. On the cover there was a bit of different, with a bird-horned rimmed glasses and an old-fashioned haircut, smiling pleasantly away from the old viewer, with the chin resting on the knuckles. It was in the elegant and loopy in the front with the words, the complete words of O'Flannery O'Connor, with the listing of all the titles beneath it. And that's her? She looks kind of like Parster K, May said. Just more 50s. Yeah, she looks kind of sweet, Greg said. So, what are we gonna do? We're just gonna read the whole thing? May asked. No, I already did that. I was thinking I could look through more of the stories again and see how significant deaths can happen, Angus said, opening up his book to his table of contents. Geez, that's already freaking grim when you say it out loud, May admitted. Whatever keeps us from ending up like Penderson, Angus said. You need to keep up your research, Captain, Greg said. Angus paused, scratching the back of his neck with a sheepish laugh. I guess, this is research, isn't it? No worries, big guy. We're here to help, like, ants, May said. Ants? Greg echoed, tilting his head. You know, like how ants help each other, right? May then looked between Greg and Angus before huffling, Forget it there, and when all three of them went over to the reading tables, and lit it up by one over the dusty-headed lights. Well, I usually get a diet soda when I read, and this is actually make it go faster if I could talk it out loud with someone that writes down as I say. It feels like weird giving people orders, Angus said, stealing himself with one of the creaky wooden chairs. Diet Falska soda? Okay, May said. Yeah, thanks. There's a machine over by the first door bathrooms. Angus slid $1 and got 2 quarters across the table. $1.50 for one soda? May exclaimed, her earning a hush from Angus. Sorry, but that's too much money. But it's the closest. You can get anything right with a bug? Angus asked Greg. Greg furrowed his brow and then patted his pockets, his eyes lighting up as he pulled out a blueprint ballpoint pen. Miss Walski has never forgotten to sign this her receipt. I guess I'll never look into that. Good thing you did, or it would have gone to the wash again, Angus smiled, looking at May. May, do you think you could grab a sheet of 2 printer of paper while you're down there? Pretty sure the front desk hands them out. Aye, aye, Captain, May said, grabbing the money and then saluting. Hey, that's my thing, Greg cried, Angus and hushing him. May then took the elevator down to the ground floor, taking the opportunity to look at the bruise on her left hip. Parting with the fur that revealed an ugly purplish blemish that delicate pale pink skin underneath. In the very center of the bruise was a brownish spot that reminded May of a potato peel. Touching it caused it a dull burn of pain. She then shrugged to pull her jeans back up and as the elevator came to a stop, yanking them to the seat of their waist as the door opened. She cursed herself probably having to gain more weight since she came home. She then thought of her body resembled a plastic bag full of pudding, but weak by a large and giggling at the least sexy places. May had retrieved one of the sheets of paper that she approached the Falcosa machine, embossed with the pictures of what seemed to be a yellow fox in shades leaning against the border of his picture, holding a can of soda. May always told Greg that he could go since he is the furthest, but her suggestion always denied since Greg always thought he looked nothing like him. May then even slid the dollar bill into the slot, it only for a minute to spit back out with an angry beep. What? Come on, May flattered as she creased the dollar against the machine, tried to attempt to get again, but no luck. God, chew and swallow, you effing... It's upside down. B then came out of the woman's restroom, drying her hands on the brown paper towels. Oh, May flipped the dollar over and tried again, and the machine accepted the bills without any fuss. Thanks, when did you get here? Barely a minute ago. How's your wound? B asked. Well, it only hurts if I touch it. May then dropped the 2 quarters and pressed the button down on the Diet Falcosta, and the machine gave a faint whenever it swallowed a metallic trunk at the bottom. May retrieving the soda. Hey, it's actually pretty cold. It's pretty much that I ever thought that the can of the room was at temp, at least. The library can probably afford to repair their drink machine if they can afford the free floors worth of books, B replied. True. The two of them went back to the elevator, B pressing on the call button on their thumb before relaxing on the wall with her phone out. How is it staying at Germs? She asked without looking up. Good. He's got a big house. I pretty much have my own floor. Or May said. So they're rich, despite me? I think a lot of this family's construction, B said. What do you think of that? May said. What else would we have dynamite for? May replied. Even Germ couldn't even find that just laying around. With that being a shrill ring, the elevator door opened up, and the 2 girls stepping inside, riding towards the 3rd floor. About last night in the car, B said with a lengthened bit of silence. I meant what I said was about talking to me if you needed it. I know, it was really badass of you. No, really. Seeing you cry made me think of me when I lost my mom. I remember how alone I felt. Bay crossed her arms. Oh yeah, I'm sorry I wasn't there, May said. I know, but you drew the crap back stick with me this time, and you've treated me right since you got back, so the elevator doors then slid open. Thanks, May said, and a small smile on her lips. B simply nodded and went on, May following behind with the soda and paper. About an hour later, the four of them left the library, Angus then ratting out the plan of the evening aloud. So I'll type up the research and send it out tonight, and then you can have the original copy once I'm done with it, or you could just print out you a typed copy at home if you can read my writing. Your handwriting is a gazillion times better than mine, big guy, but before we go back to the apartment, do you think we could stop at Sulmer's house? Fine with me, Angus said. No complaints, Haynes B added. So do you want to make sure she's okay? Greg asked. Yeah, and there's someone I need to talk to, May said. And you guys remember Mr. Charlesky? Of course, the astronomy teacher, B said. He still lives at Summers and he stands on the roof with his telescope. I wanted to know if he talked to the cops. He said that I might be a potential witness. Sounds like a plan, let's go, Greg cried. There was a short ride to the Foresters that made even shorter by the fact that it was mostly downhill. May paid close attention to the traffic signals at all times, actually stopping at the intersection. You guys go on ahead, I'm gonna go to the park, B called out of her window, turning down the different street roads that of their apartment to the parking garage. May and Greg could cruise at the stop at the bottom of the hill, leaving their own bikes at the sidewalk at the front of the Foresters. Well, I'll keep watch, not taking any chances after night, Greg said, standing between two bicycles. That's when he and Angus and May left up to the porch. May rang the doorbell. She is usually sitting out here, is she? Angus asked. Yeah. May swallowed the doorbell and rang again, only for the door to open a few moments later. Hey, Dork, Summers said in a gray t-shirt and sweatpants, smiled and leaned against the doorframe. Hey, Angus, I thought you were up the pizza boy. Summers. May then gave her girlfriend a quick hug, not even sure where her parents were around. I'm doing alright. Question, do you know if the cops talked to Mr. Charowski? Mr. Charowski? Not that I know of. Do you want to ask him? Summers pointed over a thumb over her shoulder. Sure. Summers let May inside, looking at Angus. You could come in too if you want. Oh, right. Sorry, thank you. Angus briefly glanced at Greg before entering as well. Summers' living room was dimly lit but cozy. A plush green couch was colorful quilt dripped over the back of the seat against the left wall. The recliner, the same color and fabric, positioned across from it, and a small flat screen television, a Luditonium path leading up to the kitchen, stood right there, and a set of stairs curling up towards the house, and at the top right corner, the sunlight filtering the room in them. Hey folks, we are paying off a canasta with some of my friends, so it's just me and Mr. Charowski, he said, spending his weekend writing lesson plans. He's been cooped up in this room, Summers said, leading them upstairs. How long has he lived in your family? Angus asked. A few years, I think, ever since they tore down his old condo. The stairs and the hallway was brilliantly lit by a large window at the end of the hallway. The two doors stood each other's side, and each another set of stairs leading further up to the door, presumably onto the roof. Summers then dropped the first door and the left and knocking. Mr. Charlesky? Summers called as she frowned and pressed her ear against the door before knocking again. Maybe he's on the roof, May suggested. Nah, he's probably got headphones on. Summers then tried the door and opened up. Mr. Charlesky? The sound that May has never heard of Summers make before made her and both Angus jump. A sharp rattling gasp as she clasped her hands over her mouth and stumbled backwards towards the wall. May turned inside and immediately wished she hadn't. Mr. Charlesky was upright limp, dressed in pajamas and with his toes dangling a few inches from the ground. And of course, he was dead. His warm and friendly eyes were half shut and staring down at the carpet. A note was taped to his chest. May did not remember what she found in her voice, but whoever it was, it began to scream.